Lozano and their program. And as we get this started, we want to make this interactive. So please put any questions you might have in the chat, and we can follow up with those questions. So let's turn this over to Principal Campos.
I'm not a big Zoom person, so okay, let me unmute because I'll be talking and no one is listening. Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. I am so super excited to be here today with my pre-K team, and even more excited to share with you the great work that we're doing here at Lozano and how we're supporting our EL students. So once again, I want to introduce myself, Dr. Maria Teresa Campos, Courtney MacGyver, Maria Navarro, Michelle Lynn, and Clarissa Sepulveda. I don't know if I should just say next for the next slide. Okay, there we go. This is an overview of Lozano. Our demographics is primarily Hispanic students with 68% low income, diverse learners 35%. And the diverse learners include EL students, and then the limited English students, 35.8%. Our mobility rate is pretty low, and truancy is a bit high, but I think based on whatever the data was polled, I think there's some COVID involvement. So we serve the 35% of EL students in the building, which approximately 15% continue their journey with Lozano from pre-K, and we have one full day bilingual pre-K teacher, 2 bilingual teachers in the blended program, and 1 monolingual teacher in our, that has ESL endorsement. The curriculum you use, which is a district curriculum that is also in both English and Spanish, teacher creative curriculum. And with this curriculum, what we do is we move forward in a unit. And so if you go into the next slide, I think I speak about those pieces. So part of these pieces is also working in unison with our network liaison, Dr. Clark, that we're at Network 6, and she is our liaison, also connected to our early childhood special education liaison. And she has been very instrumental. I've been working with her 5 to 6 years. And so she attends our weekly meetings. So we have currently right now 4 teachers that meet on a weekly basis. All the pre-K teachers meet together. And I think that this is something that has been very powerful for us to be able to share best practices and just like issues, concerns, or questions that we might have around how to address some work or respond to students as far as the supports. And Dr. Clark also has offered many resources in addition to the creative curriculum that we use and how we can go about maximizing opportunities with our students. And then just to put it into baseline, every single pre-K teacher does have ELL endorsement, which is super helpful as far as being able just to use that skill set into both bilingual and monolingual students. And the partnership, like I said, is invaluable. So then this is a little bit about our programs. We have a blended one that is half AM and half PM. So kids come in for half the day. We also have the opportunity that not many programs, an extended 30 minutes that we have provided for community building through meal sharing. And so we offer that opportunity that's optional for families, and 100% of them have accepted that extra time. So our teachers interface with our students and work with them also as far as with nutrition and with just socialization and just kind of like building the community together in a deeper way. And then in this program, we also have, sorry, if you could go back. We have 2 bilingual teachers who, one is fluent in Spanish and the other one in Cantonese. And they also both have general education certification. And next year, we're going to convert one of our gen ed classrooms into a blended classroom. So I'm looking for a very strong special ed teacher. Just putting it out there. So if anyone that you know is interested that would qualify, we're looking for a special education preschool. I prefer bilingual and definitely with ESL. So that's in the works as far as with the hiring for next year. So the half-day program, some of the students qualify for all day. They're going to be able to jump into this all-day blended program. So then the connection to the report, as far as, you know, some of these successes, once again, full-day classrooms, that's, you know, that's pretty much a given. The more time you're with students, the more opportunities. And here going back into just the unification of the program, that we have the creative curriculum. In addition to that, we also are working with balanced literacy that is also incorporated within the structure of the program, where our students are able to just start to work through the behaviors of literacy. And there's annotations and documentation through teachers that they take all this data and then they reflect on this data to be able to pivot their instruction. Okay, so now I have the teachers here present with us at just a 2-minute little blurb about how they support our EL students in each room. So we'll start with Ms. MacGyver and then work our way to Ms. Navarro, Ms. Lynn, and Ms. Sepulveda. So thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Courtney MacIver. I am an early childhood educator. I've been teaching full day preschool and some kindergarten for the last 20 years. And I have to say, it makes me feel very empowered and excited to see so many administrators with a focus today on early childhood and even a step further, our youngest ELL learners. I think one thing that's really powerful to remember is that ELL education is going to give you more bang for your buck for everyone. The strategies that we use to teach ELLs are also helpful for every other learner in the classroom, because these are students who have just learned to speak, whether they're talking English or any other language. So these strategies are going to be helpful for all of those learners. All of the finger plays, all of the visuals, all of the acting things out are going to be helpful to every student in that room. I'd also like to say that these preschool rooms are really a magical place for language development. I've seen it and I've witnessed it. The preschool teachers are a special breed of teachers that are hard to quantify, but we believe in building these relationships with the family, being culturally responsive, getting to really know the families, and making that bridge from home to school is what we do. And I believe this is even more important when it comes to ELL instruction. Dr. Campos mentioned that we follow a balanced literacy model. And one component of that I've found to be really helpful with my ELL students is dialogic reading. So this empowers the child to feel like a reader, to act like a reader. So the child actually becomes the reader and the adult becomes the listener, with several steps that help the child give something to say about the book, to evaluate the child's response and sort of restate it and help them build more on their ideas and their language. Other strategies that we use are teaching language skills across all the curriculum. So math, science, social emotional learning, really stretching all of that across all the different continuums, and, speaking slowly and not being afraid to use technology. I think that the pandemic has certainly pushed me way out of my comfort zone into learning a lot more about how to use technology, especially with my ELL students. So thank you so much all for being here. It's really exciting to see this focus on early childhood.
Thank you, Ms. MacGyver. Now we're gonna have Ms. Navarro. If you can come up and speak. I'm looking right now. I'm not sure if she's having technology issues. So we'll give it like 10 seconds. If not, we can jump into Ms. Lynn. Okay, let's jump into with Ms. Lynn because I know time is valuable.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Lynn. This is my actual first year teaching at CPS or in general, so I'm a first year teacher. I am in the half-day program for the blended, so I am the general education, I'm the special education teacher, and I have a co-teacher who's a gen ed, and we both kind of just bounce off each other every day, which is great with the students to build that rapport that I'm not just a special education teacher, so that's one thing about our blended classroom that I make it important that we're both the teachers in this classroom, and our students look at us that way too. Like, I don't want to specialize to be like, these are my kids and these are your kids. So that's the biggest rule of thumb for our classroom, is that they're all our kids, they're all our students, and that they can come to both of us for anything. One of the biggest things that we do for English language learners is visuals. We can't express that enough. Visuals for everything. I have a lot of visuals already right behind me. It helps with all of our students. Like Courtney mentioned, all of our students are learning the language. They're learning to speak. They're learning to develop, their sentence structures and words, and just coming out of their bubble. So just using lots of visuals kind of help guide them, because there's a lot of talking in the day, so it's speech heavy throughout the day. So just being able to use lots of visuals and repetition. I think that's the biggest thing for us, is routine and repetition. It encourages students to participate, even if they might not fully understand what's going on, what's happening. If we're following a daily routine every day, like our morning meeting or our schedules, they're able to just follow along based on our routine, and then have that encouragement to start talking, to start, vocalizing some more, which we've seen throughout the school year itself. We had students in the beginning of the year that were scared to vocalize anything. And ever since we started doing more routines, they're jumping in, they're talking with us. So we like to just include a lot of routine and repetition. And another thing to encourage participation is just having fun with it. Like, I have 3 to 5 year olds, so just making everything fun, but like having a learning experience kind of gets them into it. So doing like science experiments, or doing some coordinated dance parties or yoga or things like that, where they can follow instructions with like body movements and visuals, it really gets them into, learning more and participating. Another thing is using my special education materials and techniques for everybody. So I realized that just using it for everyone makes it easier for everyone to follow along. And it's less of a distraction if, say, like our speech pathologist or our OT comes in and starts using different materials. All our students are already used to the materials. So something that we use, for example, is like a pacing board. So it's like this, and it kind of teaches them to use word by word structure. So like, for example, like today is Tuesday. So they'll know like each word is for one sentence, there's multiple words instead of, just everything just being lots of sounds. So it's helping them structure using routines. And then we also, the benefit of having a co-teacher in our classroom is modeling conversation. We always model conversations with each other. We play, whoever's leading, the other one will play a student sometimes. So we'll model behavior, we'll raise our hand and say, I have a question. And then so they kind of follow our behaviors and our conversations. And we narrate a lot of our behaviors as well. So simple things, just I'm walking to the board, I'm going to grab a marker and write what you said, and just narrating things like that makes it a lot easier for them to put words together. And I guess last but not least, just patience and positivity, just like working, lots of patience in our classroom. If we see students trying to speak, like any of our students, our English learners or our general education learners, all of them, they take some time to form some sentences, but if they know that you're waiting and letting them, like they'll get to it. So just lots of patience. And thank you all again for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lynn and Ms. MacGyver. So yeah, I think this balance, as you could see, that we're also, focused on not only ELs, but DL students, are diverse learners. And I know it's a fine line, especially when they're young, that, historically, years ago, the categories were created a lot quicker and not given students opportunities to really grasp a second language. And they were immediately saying, well, they're not learning, so therefore they're going to be into a special education category. But I think that our school is super intense with that we know it takes time to acquire language. And we also look at other resources and other opportunities. We've had students not only in preschool, but in other grades where at first they come in and, there's a whole phase into learning a language. And if you don't know that, then sometimes you think the child is having other difficulties. But once you give them the opportunity, you could see the flourish that they have, and you could see like their conversation increases dramatically. We've had a student that came in nonverbal literally 2 years ago, and now she's just speaking up a storm. And so those are the things that we need to do also as educators, administrators, or, just in education, considering the time that you need to give to our students to really acquire a language. So thank you once again for all your time. And any questions, we could open the floor. I know we don't have much time, but we'll entertain any questions.
And Dr. Campos, I just wanted to bring up, first of all, I love that the early childhood teachers are feeling empowered. You should feel empowered. It's just an incredible and important job that you all are doing. And I think this also just points to the phenomenal need we have in policy for early childhood teachers with both bilingual ESL and special education endorsements, because we know early on this overclassification or underclassification in special ed, because it's so complicated and can be intertwined with language development, is such a big deal. And if we're classifying a kid as special ed when they don't need it early on, how detrimental that can be. So I just wanted to bring out how, because they call those teachers unicorns that have both those sets of those endorsements, because they're so difficult to find. So I know we're sort of preaching to the choir a little bit in this group, because we all are passionate about young, diverse and early and English learner students. But how do you all think, this is a question that we have, that we can really communicate this to a broader audience who isn't thinking necessarily about early childhood and English learners? Because we're hearing some important policy implications around not just 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds, and not just half-day programs, full-day programs. So are there any thoughts about how this can influence policy and practice?
I think that it just has to be a multi-tiered communication, social media, community organizations. I don't think your typical person is really aware of all of these issues. So just bringing it more to the media, I think, will be helpful.
And I also think demographics right now, 23% of pre-K is EL. That's low because of COVID. It was around a third before. It's a much bigger student body.
Yeah, we're definitely experiencing a change in enrollment, but we're certainly hoping this upcoming school year, we'll see a lot of those families starting to return.
Yeah.
It's a matter of trust.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think Patricia, did I say Patricia, or was it Diana had a question? Diana Razo Jimenez, did you have a question?
I just think more policy implications. I mean, I love that they were transparent about the demographics and how there was like a 0.5 differential between ELL status demographics and like diverse learners, right? And one of the teachers spoke to the practices, and I thought it was lovely the way they mentioned narration. I mean, internally, that's a quick lesson for us that children's voices should be heard, right? And they should be allowed to narrate and discuss and in their language, in the native language, in their emergent language, what they're doing, and the sound of their voices should be heard and affirmed, right? Because there is a cultural component that children are shaping their identity and constructing their identity as we are teaching them. So I just appreciate the lessons by the teacher, but also an eye and an ear towards that diverse learner status, and that, as you said, over identification. That is a big conversation, and that's a conversation we should be having with our parents as well.
It's a very big deal. Are there more thoughts on best practices, especially coming out of COVID, and it's important for oral language development and doing this in a classroom in person after being online?
I think it is important to note that those first 2 months of school, it's all about community building. It's all about helping children find their voice, even if they don't speak yet, and building on their family. We talk a little bit about families and just making it super relevant to kids. If you out of the gate start with your ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, that's really not so meaningful for a child who has had no experience with that at all. You have to really meet them where they're at and build that community, both with your students and their families.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful.
In addition to that, I also believe very firmly, and this is just my own motto of just the entire building, it's not what you can't do, but what you can do, and that's what you leverage. So you really do some searching right now with getting to know students, as Ms. MacGyver is mentioning, within the first couple months, and then you could recognize what students can do. And then if you leverage off of that, then that gives that self-esteem to go up, way up, and then you build from there. So that to me is very important. We also have a cluster program in our building, and a lot of our cluster students, you don't realize their talents until you expose them and you push them and you really raise the bar for them. And it's, all these different, we have artists and dancers and, just kids that have great memory and technology, especially during COVID. They were putting PowerPoints together, moving in a minute. And I'm like, I would never think of that, but just giving them that chance and just giving a child a chance to really showcase what they can do, that's a big opportunity for all of us.
Yes, and I know we got to move back to the main room, but I love that we're celebrating our ELs because we know when they're supported, they do well over time.